that? What in the hell was that? This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. I am not saying this to be inflammatory. I am 100% serious. On a professional level, or in the case of the WNBA, a semi-professional level, the Chicago Bravado are one of, if not, the worst team I have ever seen. I have been watching professional basketball for decades. This is easily one of the worst teams I've ever seen.
But the Indiana Fever, as I did a video reaction last night right after the game, absolutely dismantled the Chicago Sky, and a lot of today's focus is on the player that everybody, at least her fan base, and the WNBA too, and ESPN until this past week, all complicit.
We have to
unfair.
Talk about this. She's just not that good. Like, she's just not that good. Angel Reese.
Angel. Reese didn't realize she was about to be humiliated in front of 19,000 people when she entered the court believing she could continue playing small-time games against Caitlin Clark. The attempt by Chicago to disparage Clark backfired badly, and what came next was pure karma, and basketball is served cold. This wasn't merely a defeat. This was a total breakdown. When Angel Reese saw that the Fever was killing them without even having Clark on the court, what do you suppose was going through her mind?
Annihilation, cremation, whatever you want to call it, roasting, sauteed, whatever your form of cooking may be, and or fireworks, fire play, I don't know. But the Indiana Fever, as I did a video reaction last night right after the game, absolutely dismantled the Chicago Sky, and a lot of today's focus.
Wow, where do we begin with this catastrophe? The Chicago Sky believed they were being clever, didn't they? They believed that by subtly criticizing Caitlin Clark, their squad would suddenly become less awful. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. In fact, it made their situation so much worse that I feel almost ashamed for them.
She was allergic to easy buckets. That's how I knew she was different. She never met a layup she couldn't miss. She was the best. The reason we watching women's basketball is not because of one person. It's because of me too. She had that Kobe confidence, but instead of that Mamba, she had that dog. Woof, woof, woof. But that dog couldn't hoop either. Oh hell no, you could not stop her confidence. Her layup? Ugh. Yes. Her confidence? No, bitch. I get rebounds. You don't get to her level of greatness without sacrifice. And she sacrificed every goddamn layup. I mean, she's doing it right now. One time I'm telling her, you know you can make that. And she goes, but should I? Genius. Genius. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. She proved you can miss 100% of the shots you do take. You heard of the greats like Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. Angel Reese is up there with them. You caught me. I'm just trying to hit.
Given how ridiculously this game has been covered by the media, let's discuss what actually transpired. Not only did the Sky lose, but they were completely destroyed by a Fever team that was without their star player and Angel Reese. First, let's address the obvious. Sky made a petty attempt to insult Caitlin Clark before the game even began by misspelling her name on the official report. She gave one of the most pitiful performances I've seen from a putative star player this season, making a conscious effort to utilize the Y spelling that all Clark haters use as their little secret handshake. You are aware of that. That is the hallmark of those who, out of sheer resentment, are so intimidated by Clark's success that they are unable to even spell her name correctly. I'm not claiming that the person who typed that report did it on purpose, but come on, we all know what that misspelling means. The atmosphere is similar to that of bullies in middle school who pretend to be quiet while really displaying their insecurities to everyone. The disrespect continued. The Sky organization let this occur, and that it set the stage for what would turn out to be the most embarrassing night of their season. There, throughout the entire game, the announcers made fun of Caitlin Clark, a player who wasn't present. They totally ignored the reality that their home team was being utterly thrashed on national television because they were so focused on promoting their narrative that the Fever were better off without Clark. When Clark wasn't on the court, these commentators pretended that the Fever players were suddenly all famous. They kept saying things like, "The ball is moving so much better without Caitlin Clark," and "Observe Dana Bonner's transformation." In the meantime, the squad outscored opponents by 28 points in the 21 minutes that Bonner was off the court, but she was undoubtedly coming alive. Bonner went 2 of 6, which was a -1 in a 30-point victory. The most absurd aspect of this game was that the Fever set a season high for turnovers. They were careless, unfocused, and playing some of their worst basketball of the season, but it didn't matter because the Sky's defense is so awful. The Fever could have won by 20 points even if they were wearing blindfolds.
In and out dribble, watch Colson Reese.
Now, because this is when things become very unpleasant, let's speak about Angel Reese's performance. 4 points. 4 in a match in which her team lost by a score of 30 points. Angel Reese was able to make 2 of 7 shots and score precisely 4 points. She handed the ball over 3 times, missed 2 wide-open layups, and had her shot blocked twice. The media has been treating this player like a superstar the entire season.
The eyes of the sports world were focused on Angel Reese in the WNBA, and Angel Reese once again proved why no one is watching her. Angel Reese once again proved she is nowhere near Caitlin Clark's level. Her performance was absolute.
Here's the truly embarrassing bit, though. In her 26 minutes of play, Reese was down 20 points, which indicates that she missed 14 of her minutes on the court. Her squad was only down 7. Therefore, when their alleged star was observing the carnage from a bench, the Sky was really nice. Angel Reese's presence on the court has improved the Sky's performance in every game this season. Not a single one, and prior to anyone attempting to defend her by bringing up her rebounding. Although she did have 12 rebounds, one of her 2 field goals was a simple leak-out basket that needed no technique at all. Although the other player's finish was respectable, it sets a low standard for a player who is considered to be in the MVP conversation. The performance's most telling aspect for Reese wasn't even the awful turnovers or shooting. She wasn't even attempting to be hostile. It was just how passive she was. She was trying to get out of advantageous scoring positions by avoiding contact and acting as though she knew she was going to look foolish. And that's precisely what took place. This returns us to the larger view. The Chicago Sky's total lack of organization. They forgot they had to play basketball because they were so focused on attempting to belittle Caitlin Clark. The outcome was one of the most lopsided defeats in recent WNBA history. The Sky didn't lead for a single second of this game. They were behind from the first tip and never even threatened to make it. Their players were so preoccupied with the story that they didn't bother to show up to compete. Competitive, the Fever made the Sky appear like a high school JV team while playing without their best player, their leading forward, and their head coach. However, this is what makes it even more embarrassing for Angel Reese in particular. She has had 3 or 4 games this season that were complete shambles, including ones in which she went 1 out of 10 from the field or had more turnovers than completed shots. But despite this, she keeps receiving criticism as if she is impervious to criticism. The numbers don't lie, despite the media's constant promotion of the idea that Angel Reese is an outstanding athlete. This season, she has been among the worst starting players in the WNBA. She is not just awful, she is among the league's 3 or 4 worst starters. Since her freshman season, she has regressed in nearly every aspect of her game, and she makes worse decisions now than she did the year before. Her defense, which was once a strength, has vanished. She's become less adept at finishing near the basket and more reluctant to shoot, and she's lost a number of the strong points that made her a successful rookie. This slump isn't limited to sophomores. This is a total reversal. And let's not even discuss the unparalleled circumstances. Angel Reese won a title in that 3-on-3 pickup league, but where was she when her team won? She was on a plane, so she wasn't there to watch the game or cheer on her teammates. She was actually flying when they were competing for the title, but for some reason, this is presented as yet another achievement for her resume. The disparity between the treatment of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is simply astounding. Every time Clark makes a mistake, misses a shot, or is thought to have a weakness in her game, she receives criticism. Ree, meanwhile, scores 4 points in a 30-point defeat. She pulled down several rebounds against a squad that was unable to make a shot to save their life, so in some ways, it's not her fault. Everything that was wrong with the Chicago Sky organization was embodied in this game. Building a competitive basketball team is not as important to them as petty drama and fabricated rivalries. Even though they are hardly rotation-level talent, several of their players believe they are stars. They have an organization that considers it ingenious rather than embarrassing when opponents misspell their names. The most damning aspect of, without its greatest players, this is how the Fever appeared overall. When Ari McDonald joined, he instantly improved every aspect of the team. Players like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston was playing at a whole new level as the ball movement improved and the tempo increased. It demonstrated that although terrible basketball players bring everyone down with them, good basketball players elevate their teammates. Aaliyah. When Caitlin Clark is playing, Boston averages 20 points per game. When she is not, they only score 12. When a true point guard is on the floor, Kelsey Mitchell performs significantly better. When Clark is in the lineup, even Natasha Howard performs better. When Clark plays, all of the Fever players have higher numbers than when she doesn't. Real star players do that. They make everyone around them better. In the meantime, Angel Reese's presence degrades her squad in every quantifiable manner. While she is on the court, the Sky offense becomes more sluggish. They have trouble moving the ball. Due to Reese's obstruction of the lane and inability to stretch the defense, other players receive less favorable looks. Despite being their franchise player, she is really impeding their progress. When you consider it, her game's deterioration is rather startling. She was a respectable defender when she joined the league, capable of grabbing rebounds, finishing near the rim, and occasionally stretching the floor. Even though she is no longer a reliable layup shooter and has somehow become worse at practically everything but offensive rebounding, the media narrative machine continues to produce headlines about her as a burden on defense. Generational talent that simply needs some assistance. Additional assistance. She has a team that plays to her strengths, coaches who accommodate her limitations, and a league that goes above and beyond to support her brand. When do we admit that perhaps the issue isn't with the support? Angel Reese was expected to use this game versus the Fever as an opportunity to demonstrate her ability to step up when it counted. She made a complete fool of herself and watched her team be humiliated. On national television while the Sky were at home, the fans were behind them, and they were dealing with a decimated, sick roster. The Sky's appearance while Reese was on the bench was the game's most revealing moment. Not even her poor shooting or lethargic play. In fact, they performed better on the court when their alleged star wasn't there. The Sphere moved with greater freedom. Other players were able to avoid being totally blown out during those minutes because they had superior looks. The Chicago Sky Group must confront this terrible reality. Their whole franchise is centered around a player who deteriorates them. Because they have so much invested in the Angel Reese brand, they are unable to acknowledge that she is not a franchise-level player. Instead, they continue to make small gestures, such as misspelling opponents' names, in the hopes that no one will notice that their squad is seriously defective. The saddest thing is that Angel Reese does possess some Real basketball skills. She can guard various spots when she's locked in defensively and is an excellent offensive rebounder. However, those abilities are meaningless if she is unable to score, makes poor choices, and intentionally harms others. The movement of her team on both sides of the court. This defeat to the Fever should have served as a wake-up call for the Whole Sky organization, but instead they will likely point the finger at the referees, make excuses about injuries, and keep acting like everyone else is to blame for their issues. That's what happens when storylines take precedence over basketball. When teams are missing their top players, you wind up feeling ashamed. Angel Reese's immediate regret throughout this game was not only due to her subpar performance, but also to the understanding that all of her trash talk, social media pranks, and attempts to minimize. When you can't support yourself on the basketball floor, Caitlin Clark's achievements are nothing. When you're losing by 4 points in blowouts, you can't claim to be the best. The key distinction between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese was shown by this game. One is a true superstar who elevates everyone in her vicinity. The other is a well-known figure on social media who also plays basketball. There you have it. The man's pathetic attempt to disparage Clark simply served to emphasize how far behind the company is and how overvalued their alleged franchise player is. Angel Reese's immediate remorse was accompanied by harsh reality. Their star player was exposed on the biggest platform after the Sky Petty games went horribly wrong. Your thoughts on this disastrous performance? Please share your opinions in the comments section below.